The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome to the 15-Point Plan. My name's Chad Himes. I get to be one of your hosts on this journey, joined today by the always helpful Jillene Snell. How are you today, Jillene?
I'm good and thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you, Jillene. We have a wonderfully special guest joining us on today's episode, the creator of the 15-Point Plan, sitting across from me, Mr. Ben Kinney. Say hello to everybody, Ben.
Insert sound effects.
I was thinking drum roll, but that works.
That would work. Hey, excited to be here. I hope you all are enjoying the journey of the 15-Point Plan and you're starting to create habits of checking away at earning points each and every day as Chad and Jillene educate you and take you down this path. What we want to see is that it's really starting to improve your life, your energy, your happiness, and your health, right?
Absolutely. That's what we're working for on every episode. We hope you've been joining us as we're going through the whole 15-Point Plan here, taking you through each one so you can learn how to earn that check mark on the tracker so that we can help raise your energy, improving your health. Today, we're here to talk about mindfulness. Now, we have a goal on the podcast to keep the content piece to 15 minutes so that we're keeping it all together, but we got a guest today, so hang in with us. We might go just a little over that time as we're having some fun throwing things around here today. Ben, you're warned, though. We do our best to stay to around 15 minutes.
Am I really a guest? Like, do I have to always be called a guest? If I'm more like a neighbor, like a family
the
member.
Uncle who's moved in?
Yeah, I'm like the weird drunk uncle.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So we got Uncle Ben joining us for today's episode where we're talking about mindfulness. And before I ask you this, Ben, Jillene, I wanna ask you, give me the definition of what mindfulness is that we're talking about today.
So the definition that you'll find when you do research is that it's a mental state achieved by focusing your awareness on the present moment. It's like a concentration exercise while calmly acknowledging and accepting your feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. It's used as a therapeutic technique.
Okay.
And so that's the research definition.
Got it.
I know Ben has a definition for what mindfulness is. So
Ben
I'd love
definitely
to
will have a
hear his as
definition
well.
for it. So Ben, what is mindfulness and why did you choose to put this on the 15-Point Plan when building it?
I'm still focused on the bodily sensations term. I'm just trying to really dive in and explain that in my mind of what that really means, Chad.
Don't get too into that.
So the real question is, why did we add mindfulness into the 15-Point Plan that we created to help us stay out of the rut?
Right.
And for me, it's you need to take a break from the thoughts, the chaos, the noise, the environment that happens to us all the time. And mindfulness is, in my mind, a gift that I give myself once or twice a day to stop and not think about the pressures or struggles or problems, or the worst thing that eats me up is these negative limiting thoughts that roll through my head about not being good enough, not getting enough done, being too busy, for whatever that might be. How do you take a mental break? And when we first created the 15-Point Plan, we actually called it pray or meditate.
Right.
But it's actually more than that. It's not just take a time to pray, and it's not just find your own or whatever you do, right? It's not just meditate. It's giving yourself a little bit of time where you actually don't think, or you focus your thoughts or internal conversation on someone or something else. Like praying would be a good example. You're not really thinking because you're actually just saying the words and talking through that conversation with whoever you pray to.
Right.
When you're talking or when you're singing or when you're doing these things, you don't have thoughts. The only thoughts are what's coming out of your mind.
Sure. That's great. And on meditation, what you're talking about there, which we'll also come back to, I can't do them when they're not guided meditations. I need that voice coming in that situation to keep my thoughts focused on where we're going on that path. So Ben, You said once or twice a day. How long are we looking at for this mindfulness? If we're going to be mindful, I mean, is this, hey, I'm playing Clash of Clans for like 20 minutes here, so that's my mindfulness time?
Let's not put a limit on it,
Okay.
but let's make a commitment to ourselves that we're going to give ourselves the gift.
Okay.
I have friends, great individuals like Adam Hergenrother, who will literally meditate, because I've spent a lot of time in tents and cabins with Adam, for a half hour to 45 minutes every day.
Wow.
That's what he committed and gave the gift of himself to.
Okay.
For me, I want to have 3 to 5 minutes to clear my mind or to take a break and re-energize myself. That might be between important or chaotic times. Like if you're going out of one situation that was intense and you're going to go into another situation that's intense, you don't want to bring the intensity of the last one or the negativity of the last one or the positive, whatever, into the next one, Jillene. So maybe you just say, you know what? I'm going to give myself a gift of 3 minutes to sit back and have no thoughts and come into that conversation fresh.
And that can be such a great buffer in between a busy day with lots of meetings, right?
Yeah, you
Sounds
need
like
it.
Purposefully actually putting it on your calendar and knowing I'm going to want a 3 or 5 minute break for myself right here to be mindful.
One of the biggest draws of our energy, in my mind, is our internal thoughts. And if you've never tried to control those thoughts, I'll give you kind of a tech tip. Check out, there's a device called Muse, M-U-S-E. You could actually buy this device. It's relatively cheap, 100, 200 bucks, and you wear it. And it tracks the activity in your brain. And you open up this app, and it kind of guides you through, but it can see your brain activities when you're thinking or going off. So it really teaches you to control that or minimize those thoughts by visually seeing it and actually tracking it. And it couldn't track it inside us if there wasn't energy moving around. Does that make sense?
That's a great
That's
point.
So
interesting.
you're actually using up your energy on all these negative thoughts or worries or problems or ideas. And you wonder why at the end of the day, you don't have anything left.
I read an interesting quote that says, your mind is the sky and everything else is the weather.
Interesting.
Your mind is the sky and everything else is the weather.
I might be moving out of the Pacific Northwest then soon.
Yeah, right.
Everything here is the weather.
Absolutely.
We have no sky.
Okay, and we've talked about this on episodes in the past. We've talked about this over on the Win, Make, Give, as we would talk about thoughts, that a lot of those thoughts are repetitive thoughts, and a lot of those thoughts are negative thoughts. Jillene, we just had that conversation in a recent episode as well, where we were talking about journaling. So again, there's all that energy, and a lot of it's wasted energy going on in our head.
There's 2 books that if you were really saying you're buying into this idea that thoughts are things that hold us back and use up our energy and really affect our lives in positive or negative ways, there are 2 books. And the reason I bring them up is because I think it brings us into the conversation that we're having today that you should read.
Okay.
First one is The Untethered Soul, which I've made a lot of people in my life read, most of which hated it, and they were mad at me. But over time, it started showing up in their life, and many of them read it multiple times. It's one of the few books that I've read over 5 times personally.
Okay.
But in The Untethered Soul, Chad, they teach us that our thoughts are not us. This is a deep kind of a statement. The thoughts, the voice in our head, I call them, Jillene, good Ben and bad Ben, those are not us. We're actually the person that just hears those thoughts. So when somebody's in there saying, you should do this or you shouldn't do that, the book teaches you that that's actually not you. Those are just voices. I hear lots of voices in my head, unfortunately, but those are just voices. You're the person that hears it. And if you could find a way to silence that voice, right, maybe you get some of that energy or some of that happiness back. And when I read that, one of the things that went through my head, so this voice that says you can't do this, or you're a failure, or you're fat, or you're not good enough, I used to always think, well, that's me. I believe that, but no, it's not me. I'm just the one hearing that voice. How do you silence that voice so you can go forward? When I first started speaking on stage, I was nervous, Jillene, and I was scared, and you were there the whole time. Like, you saw the transition of being more comfortable speaking in front of people, and I saw it in you too. When I went on my first sales presentation, I walked in and my hands were shaking and my voice was cracking. I was nervous. And my internal dialogue was saying, hey, you're going to fail. What if you screw up? What if you forget this thing? You're in front of a bunch of people. What if you say the wrong thing? What if your flies unzip? Like, this is super scary.
Yep.
So I started stopping the voice. And here's what I did is I created an affirmation. And the affirmation was me talking just like a prayer. And I simply said, I'm the best at what I do. Nobody knows this more than me. And by doing that, I would literally say it while I was driving to a presentation. I'm the best at what I do. Nobody knows this better than me. Before I went on stage, I'm the best at what I do. I'm the best at what I do. I'm the best at what I do. It sounds a little silly, and it was. However, what happened is I stopped thinking about failing. I stopped thinking about what if my fly's undone. I stopped thinking about what if I stutter or fall down or how do I look or am I going to forget it or are the slides in the right. I stopped thinking about it. I controlled the voice in my head, which goes back to that Untethered Soul book. The second book is The Enlightened Gardener.
Yes. The
Enlightened Gardener made one statement that really stuck with me. Jillene, the Enlightened Gardener said that if you were to fill a bucket with water, what shape would the water be in?
The shape of the bucket.
Shape of the bucket. So, Chad, in our life, our thoughts become the bucket.
Right.
Our life becomes the water. So if we're having things in our life that are going on, most likely it's because we have all these thoughts and we're going out there and finding proof of those thoughts to be true. And our life just becomes that. Nobody loves me. I can't manage money. I'm going to be successful. Nobody's going to hire me, whatever that might be. And your life actually becomes that. And I see these people walking around like Eeyore where they lost their freaking tail every day. And I started thinking, gosh, they're such great people when you get to know them. I love them. They're awesome people. But their life is just as bad because they literally are creating that by not looking for good and not finding good and not controlling their thoughts. So back to the original 15-point plan, mindfulness discussion. How do you silence those thoughts for 3 to 5 minutes through prayer, meditation, conversation, or silence? Sitting in the wilderness, Jillene, and just taking in, listening to the birds or whatever, and just trying to have no thoughts. Try it, and then see how you feel after it. Time yourself. Just put a clock on your phone and just do it for 2 minutes of having zero thoughts. And then the next day, do it for 3 minutes. And then work your way up until you can give yourself the gift of a few minutes every day to just unplug from the world.
Okay, Jillene, give us some other specific examples of ways Ben just kind of threw out one of connect with nature, which I know is a big one for Ben. He'll just go hiking or go camping or something like that and just connect with nature. Give us some other ways that our audience can purposefully be mindful.
Well, a big goal behind mindfulness is simply just slowing down. We're leading such chaotic, busy lives sometimes, and we're moving fast from the second that we wake up. So slowing down could be doing yoga.
Okay.
Right? You can use an app, you can attend a class. One of my favorites is a guided meditation. I feel like I need that input, that person to take me through. And it's also a scheduled time, like they're going to give me that 5-minute window, that 10-minute window, whatever it is.
Right.
And I already use the Peloton app for riding bike. And they offer some meditation exercises that are 5 minutes, as short as 5 minutes, right?
You know, it's
but there's other
interesting.
apps you can use too.
But it's interesting, Jillene, because knowing that you were a Peloton person, I had looked at this and I went into the guided meditations. And one of the categories is actually mindfulness. Like you could focus on sport improvement. You can focus on sleep when you're doing your meditation. One of them actually is mindfulness. So you can truly have a guided meditation just about being mindful.
Absolutely.
Okay, but not everybody has the Peloton app. So what else could they possibly be using if they're saying, I need the help like that?
One of the top-rated apps is the app called Calm.
Sure.
It does have a subscription fee to it, but there's another one that's free, and it's called the Smiling Mind app. So that's one that you could give a try.
All right, so those are some that they can check out. What about, you're wearing something on your wrist over there, I see. That Apple Watch that you've got that so many people are running around with, how can that help you with being more mindful?
Well, it's funny you say that because my Apple Watch is telling me I need to stand. I've been sitting too long recording a podcast. But it also tells me when to breathe. So you can set up a feature where it reminds you throughout the day to breathe. And during that time, I'm actually doing it. I'm hitting the start button and I'm taking a few seconds to breathe and calm my mind and focus on the present moment, which helps me disconnect from any worries of the past or what I'm concerned about in the future. So it actually works.
Okay. Any challenges while you're doing that, Jillene? When you're sitting there doing a mindful moment and taking that time, that breathing, those thoughts, any challenges that you run into that you're willing to share?
When you're aware of your thoughts can actually be negative thoughts or things that you realize you haven't done yet. Maybe you got 2 points on the 15 plan instead of 14 that day, and you're beating yourself up over it, right?
Sure.
And like referring back to what Ben said, is that it just takes practice each time, just do a little bit better. Silence those negative thoughts a little bit better. There's 2 words he mentioned that are really powerful, which Chris Suarez wrote a blog on, and it's called I am.
Mm-hmm.
So your positive statements being I am the best at what I do.
Sure.
Instead of I am disappointed in myself, you'll say I am good at this. I'm going to be a mindful person. I am a mindful person.
Sure. Just like you were suggesting we start our journal entries with in our last episode, that we start with those I ams when we're challenged.
Exactly. So that can help us go down a positive path.
Okay, Ben, what would you say to Jillene and anybody else out there who's saying, every time I stop and attempt to clear my mind of thoughts, I get attacked by my own thoughts and things I didn't do or the negative things or whatever? What would you say specifically to those people asking that question?
If you are spending time trying to be mindful and you leave it with less energy or more stressed, you weren't actually being mindful. You were thinking about stuff. The whole point of being mindful, of praying, of meditation, of giving ourselves the gift is to find a way to have a few minutes where you aren't thinking about stuff. Now, for me, I can do that. Jillene, you could probably do that while running or riding a bike, that you could actually just go and you aren't thinking about anything, just your footsteps. Like that could be your form of meditation. I could do it fly fishing, where I was doing nothing but looking at the water and casting, and I'm having no thoughts. I'm just observing or watching wildlife. I have binoculars. I love spotting things and seeing things. I don't think about anything. And I know that I'm not thinking about anything because I hear the squirrels and I hear the woodpecker and I hear the rustling in the bushes. You start hearing things that you've never heard before that have been around you all this time because your mind is not full of thoughts.
Okay, so we don't have to lock ourselves in a room and sit there in darkness to do this. You're saying we can be mindful at certain things that will trigger those opportunities for us.
Yep. In fact, one of the things I love about the 15-point plan is if you get it figured out, you can double dip. Like there's all these aspects.
No giving away tricks and all that stuff yet. Hang on.
There's all these aspects of the 15-point plan that you and Jillene are going through that you could actually get 2 points for, like
Sure.
managing time or coming up with a hobby that you aren't thinking or laughing. Like you could do things and actually get 2 points at once. And mindfulness is one of those things where you get to double dip.
That's awesome. Love it. Okay, so we know there's a lot of benefits to it. We know there's a lot of stuff that comes to it. You just talked about that. Ben, with it on the 15-point plan, we want to check off that list every night. How do we earn that checkbox that says, yep, we were mindful today? What do we need to do as a person that's using this plan to grow?
You either need to reflect and say, did I give myself some time to unplug today? Or right before bed, you do it. Now, I started practicing this before bed so that I could actually fall asleep. And I have a hard time falling asleep at night. And most of you who are my close friends know because I'm always reachable super late at night.
Sure.
Well, it's because my mind doesn't shut off. So I started using the Muse headband device to slow my thoughts down. Other people use meditation to fall asleep, or other people do prayer right before bed. It might be something that you commit to doing first when you wake up and last before you go to bed, and in the middle of the day when you need to pivot or you need to change or you need to re-energize.
Okay, so giving yourself that opportunity through the day to be mindful, and then actually being mindful. Not saying, hey, I'm going to do it and then thinking about everything, but actually being mindful. Earn yourself that check on that. All right, so Jillene, big takeaway from mindfulness conversation here with Ben as we wrap this episode up.
We didn't talk a lot about the byproducts and necessarily the benefits of mindfulness. We'll probably do it on a future podcast episode, but there's so many benefits that it brings to our life, from inner peace to improving the relationship that it has with ourselves, because our thoughts will do that. And in creating space for that so that we can be present in exactly where we are in the moment. And that's a really wonderful thing in our world.
All right. Well, gang, we hope this episode is going to help you be a little more mindful. We hope it's going to help you as you create your path through the 15-point plan to improving everything in your world. And we hope that this episode ups your energy and takes you to the next level.